Once upon a time, in a small suburban town, lived a woman named Claire. To the outside world, she was the perfect mother, a kind, loving parent with 2 children and a hard-working husband named Mark. Claire and Mark had been married for over a decade, and their lives appeared picture-perfect. But behind closed doors, Claire had been hiding a secret. For months, Claire had been having an affair with a man she met online while playing her favorite PC game, Realm of Shadows. It was a multiplayer fantasy role-playing game where Claire had created an alter ego, a fierce warrior named Kyla. Her character was strong and skilled, and over time she became close to another player, a mysterious man who went by the username Shadow Knight. Shadow Knight was charming, attentive, and most importantly, listened to Claire in ways her real-life husband didn't. What started as innocent banter in the game slowly turned into late-night conversations, flirtation, and eventually an emotional affair. Claire justified it to herself. It was just a game, and she was lonely. But as time went on, the lines between reality and fantasy blurred. And soon enough, Claire found herself meeting Shadow Knight in secret. One evening, as Claire sat in front of her computer, her children were asleep and Mark was out on a business trip. She logged into Realm of Shadows for a late-night session, just as she had been doing for weeks. Shadow Knight greeted her immediately, as usual. They spent the night adventuring through dungeons and slaying monsters. But tonight, something was different. While Claire and Shadow Knight were deep in the middle of a quest, something strange happened. Mark, returning home earlier than expected, entered the living room. He noticed the faint glow of Claire's computer screen and the soft sound of the game music playing. Curious, he walked over to the desk and glanced at the screen. As fate would have it, Claire had forgotten to log out of her gaming account. Mark noticed something odd. The username Shadow Knight was displayed prominently in the chat window. Without thinking, he clicked on the chat history and began reading through the messages. He couldn't believe his eyes. There were messages filled with affection, compliments, and words that no married woman should be exchanging with another man. The messages were innocent at first, but slowly became more intimate, crossing lines Claire had sworn she'd never cross. As Mark read through the messages, his heart sank. He felt betrayed, hurt, and confused. He closed the laptop and walked into the bedroom, silently. Claire, unaware of the storm brewing behind her, continued the game. She didn't see Mark standing in the doorway until he spoke. "Claire, who is Shadow Knight?" he asked, his voice eerily calm. Claire's heart raced. She froze for a moment, unsure of what to say. The guilt was overwhelming, but she tried to play it off as if nothing was wrong. "Mark, it's just a game." "It's nothing," she said, her voice trembling. Mark stared at her. "Nothing? You're exchanging personal messages with him. You've been sneaking around behind my back. I thought we had a strong marriage. I thought you loved me." The words hit Claire like a ton of bricks. Her whole world seemed to collapse in that moment. She could no longer deny the truth. Her secret was out, and the damage had been done. Mark's trust had been shattered, and she realized that the fantasy world she had been escaping to was nothing more than an illusion. "Mark, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far," Claire stammered. "It was a mistake. I was just looking for something I wasn't getting. But I never wanted to hurt you." Mark shook his head, disappointment written all over his face. "It doesn't matter now, Claire. Trust is something that can't be repaired overnight." The days that followed were tense. Claire tried to apologize, to explain herself, but Mark was distant. He was too hurt to listen. Their once happy family was now fractured, and Claire couldn't help but wonder how it had all gone wrong. In the end, the betrayal in the virtual world had led to a real-world heartbreak. Claire learned that while games may offer a temporary escape, they could never replace the love and trust that should exist in a real relationship. And as for Mark, he was left to pick up the pieces of his broken heart, unsure of whether the damage could ever be undone. The affair had been caught not by an inquisitive friend or a jealous rival, but by the very game Claire had thought was just a harmless pastime. In the end, it served as a harsh reminder that secrets, whether in a digital world or the real one, always have a way of coming to light.